Hi everyone, welcome again to this class, Principles of Management. I hope we were able to go through the previous class and at least understood a few things about management. So today we'll be looking at theories of management. What you need to note is that every manager manages their employees in a particular way. And the reason as to why they do that is because they are guided by certain principles, by certain practices, by certain beliefs. And so that is why in this class we want to understand, why do they lead the way they do? Why do they manage the way they do? For example, I know maybe you have either worked for a company where you found the manager to be very strict in terms of time. Others do not even trust you. And you really have to work very hard for them to have any trust for you. Others have to supervise you so strictly, and you're wondering, what is wrong? I came here to work. Why do I have to be supervised so strictly? So you will find some of the concepts and principles that guide them to act the way they act towards the employees. So we look at theories of management and be able to understand, where do these people borrow this from. What's a theory? It's a systematic grouping of independent concepts and principles that gives a framework to ties and a significant area of knowledge. It's relevant in the field of management because it provides a means of classifying significant and pertinent management knowledge. So we are trying to understand management and to be able to understand, why do people lead the way they lead and manage the way they manage? What are the principles and the concepts that guides them or that makes them do whatever they do or act the way they act? So theories and history of management are important to managers for various reasons. So they help us to understand the current developments and avoid mistakes that were made in the past. And they also help us to understand and appreciate current situations and development, and also help us to predict the future. So theory and a bit of history, they help us to understand what is happening currently in our working environment, both in the internal environment and the external environment. And external means outside the organization. Internal means inside the organization. And so, looking at the history and what has been happening, are we able now to predict the future so that as managers, we are not caught off guard by what is happening, but if anything, we are ahead of the pack. So they also help us to organize information and be able to approach problems systematically. Without theories, all managers would have ideas or creations which would not be useful in today's complex and dynamic organizations. But here I must put a disclaimer that as much as we learn about theories today, we don't have any that is universally accepted or agreed upon. But what we are saying here is that for you as a manager, you'll be able to look at the situation and be able to apply that theory depending with the situation. You are able to apply it depending with what is happening. So you may realize that what was happening last year may not be applicable today. Or the group of people that you are dealing with last year is not the group of people that you are dealing with this year. When you have new employees that you are managing, there's a certain way in which you need to manage them. Remember, these ones do not have much experience as far as that job is concerned. They do not know so many things. So they actually need to be guided. They may even have challenges when it comes to production. They may have challenges in operating some specific machines. because they are just fresh from school. So you may need to adopt a certain management style, which is different with when you are supervising or when you are managing people who have been there for a very long time. People who have got a lot of experience as far as maybe operating certain machines is concerned. So you need to lead them or to manage them in a different way. So we are saying that we don't have a static or a theory or a way of managing people that is the best. But we are saying here that look at the situation and be able to adopt one that you find is good for you. So we are looking at the school of management theories, the schools of management theories, and we have two, the classical school of management, and under the classical school of management, we have the scientific management. So when we talk about the classical school of management, we are saying that these ones emerged around 20th century. It is divided into scientific management theory, which focuses on work of individuals, and administrative management theories, which is concerned with organizations. So under classical, we are looking at scientific and administrative. When we're talking about scientific, we're just focusing on work. And when you're looking at administrative management theory, we are focusing on the organization and the people. So we're saying the scientific management, it was developed by a person by the name Frederick Taylor, and also a number of other people, Frank, Lillian, Henry, but Frederick Taylor is the one who is mostly associated with the scientific management theory. They believed that by using observation, measurement, logic, and analysis, the manual work could be redesigned to make their execution more efficient. So the main objective of this was to determine how jobs could be designed in order to maximize the output per employee or improve efficiency. So this scientific management theory is just concerned about work, maximizing the output, improving the efficiency. And that's why we are saying that he was interested in analyzing the job and determining its basic concepts. So when it comes to scientific, it's about work, it's about job, it's about efficiency, it's about maximizing the output. Then administrative management, which is also a classical. It was developed by a person called Henry Fayol. Henry Fayol is actually recognized as the father of classical organization theory. And for him, he believed in 5 functions or processes of managerial responsibilities. 5 functions. That is planning, that is organizing, directing, controlling, and staffing. If you look at other authors, they have also come up with some principles. We call them the 14, Henry Fayol's 14 principles. But what you realize is that the 14 principles are actually, if you put them together, they can be classified as planning, they can be classified as organization, or as directing, or as controlling, or as staffing. I don't know whether I have them somewhere. Yeah, I have them somewhere. So Henry Fayol actually developed 14 principles. But like I had said, if you look at them keenly, you'll be able at least to put one of them under organizing, another one under controlling, another one under planning, and so on and so forth. But we can just go through them so that we understand. He was talking about unity of direction, that a manager should have a plan for each of the organizational objectives. You should be able to plan. You should be able to give direction. Another one that we talked about is remuneration. That of course people should be paid and paid well. I mean, they don't just work. They are not volunteering. If their contract is based on volunteering, that's a different case. But if they are there because they need to earn their daily bread, then they should be remunerated and remunerated well. The other one is centralization. This is where we try to put all the tasks that are similar, we put them together so that work can be done well. And because when you centralize, then you realize you save a lot of time in terms of the resources that you're going to use, in terms of communication and even decision making. D is color chain of command, where we are saying that authority should flow downwards from top to bottom. So there should not be any confusion as to who reports to who. Where does authority come from? Where does authority flow from? It should be very clear. Then we are also talking about order. He was talking about having people and materials in the right place in the right time. This should be order. Then F is about equity, and you were saying that managers should be fair in dealing with employees. Issues to do with favoritism and things like that should not actually be there. Then G, we are talking about initiative. Employees should be given freedom to act and be innovative. That is very, very important. If you need growth, then allow employees to be innovative. H is called esprit de corps. This means in union, there is strength, teamwork, and that should always be encouraged. So teamwork and strength. So you realize that Henry Fayol started with 5 major functions, and he was calling them processes of managerial responsibilities. They are stated there: planning, organizing, directing, controlling, and staffing. Then he also came up with other 14 principles, which can be classified either as unity of direction, remuneration, centralization, scalar chain of command, order, equity, initiative, esprit de corps. So that one helps us to understand where he was coming from. So those 14 principles, if you try to classify them, they'll fit in these principles here. Then the next one, theory, is a Max Weber and bureaucracy theory. Max Weber and bureaucracy theory. This one was actually proposed by a German sociologist by the name Max Weber, just from where the name suggests or comes from. And I want to say that Max Weber was a little bit sensitive about the abuse of power, especially in managerial positions. So he was proposing a situation where somebody's power is controlled, so that you reduce issues to do with abuse of power. And so there are some principles that he proposed that are division of labor by functional specialization. That means by what somebody is able to do. If somebody belongs to a certain department, that is where they are put, and that is where now there can be division of labor. And then a well-defined hierarchy of authority. Who is at the top? Who is second? Who is third? Where does power come from? Where does communication come from? Then he also suggested of something that we called a cadre of professional employees, so that they can be able to work together, learn from one another. Then he also suggested a system of rules and procedures, which is also very important, especially in our day-to-day environment. People need to know what are the rules, what are the procedures. And then autonomous decision by office holders. Then we also talked about merit-based employee selection and tenure, that we should be sensitive about selection of employees, recruitment process, and things like that. Then maintenance of written records, communication, and rules, so that somebody does not just wake up in the morning and just tell you, this is also in our policy, you should have done this, you should not have done this. And so it is just a way of maintaining equity and making sure that power is really, really controlled. Then another theory, behavioral school of management theory. This one was proposed by a number of people: Chester, Mary Parker, Hugo, Professor Elton Mayo. And what they were proposing is a human relation movement, which we call HRM. Now, remember, The classical theories were just concerned with work, with efficiency, with maximizing output. But when we come to behavioral school of management theory, from what you will observe, now they are concerned about the human resource, about the person who is working. What do we think of them? So this theory came to sort of fill a gap of where a certain theory is just thinking about work, maximizing output, and making sure that, we get our profits. But the behavioral school of management theory is asking about where is a place of the individual who is working that place. She strongly believes that management and labor force must become part of one group. So management and the person who is working must be put together so that their issues are looked at, so that we don't just look at how we efficiently do work, but we also think about the person who is working. So Chester Bernard said that people come together in formal organizations to achieve things they can't achieve when working alone. So as they pursue the goals of the organization, they must also satisfy their individual needs. So they are bringing in the aspect of the human resource, the person who is working. Do they also have their needs? Do they also have their personal goals? Do they also have something they are looking at? So if the organization achieves its goals, what does a person who is working there achieve? So they are looking at the human resource. What do they need? He believed that for an organization to function effectively, there is need to maintain a balance between the organizational goals and the goals of an individual, because both of them are important. So Hugo, remember these people have come together to work on the behavioral school of management theory, is the father of industrial psychology, and he suggested that productivity could be increased through finding the best possible person, meaning the worker whose mental ability is the best for the job. He also suggested that productivity can be increased by use of psychological influence, meaning identifying the best possible effects to motivate employees. So here, we are not just looking at work. We are looking at the human resource. We are looking at the person who is working. Do they need to be motivated? Do they have needs? Do they have their goals? How can we be able to put together the work they are doing so that it is work, it is done well? And also this person is also not left behind. Their needs are also met. So from there, behavioral school of management theory, then another theory was developed after that. And this theory again was to sort of refine the behavioral theory. And this one is the human relations movement to management. So we are looking at now the human relations movement, which was suggested by Hugo and a group of theorists from the behavioral school of management theory, to now a human relations movement, now to management. Now, this person is not trying to merge the two. What they realize is that there's a disconnect. This person talks about work. This person now talks about the staff needs and all that. So how can these two be brought together? So management can be defined as a set of activities directed at the efficient and effective utilization of resources in order to achieve organizational goals. And we're saying here that management focuses on the entire organization from a short and a long-term perspective. Management is a managerial process of forming a strategic vision and then setting objectives, crafting a strategy, and then implementing and executing the strategy. And we're saying that management goes beyond the organizational internal operations to include industry, to include the general environment or the external environment. And when we talk about external environment, like I'd mentioned there before, we are thinking about the political environment, we are thinking about the social environment, we are thinking about the economic environment, the technological environment, the legal environment, and so on and so forth. So the key emphasis is on issues related to environmental scanning and industry analysis, appraisal of the current and future competitors, and in other words, you're trying to assess all the core competencies, the strategic control, and the effective allocation of organizational resources. So here, we're trying to bring in management to the human relations movement theory. And so the person who came up now with a theory after that is called Douglas McGregor. Douglas McGregor. He was also a behavioral scholar. And we are saying that when he came, he criticized the human resource movement, and he didn't like it at all. And he just thought it was just an approach of manipulating the workers. But he also said that we should remember that human resource or the staff members have needs. And this can be checked from Abraham Maslow's theory. If you look at Abraham Maslow's theory, you'll see the hierarchy of needs, where somebody moves from the basic needs to the safety needs, all the way to self-actualization. And he was saying, Douglas McGregor was saying, they don't just require money to be motivated. It is more than that. They require satisfaction, and they also have a need to feel they are part of the organization and that they are achieving. So he looked at the human relations model, and he classified it into two theories, the theory X and the theory Y. And this is what he's suggesting, that when it comes to theory X, he presented a theory where, it's from a pessimistic view, that man or people hate work, and they only work when it is necessary and when the conditions compel them to work. He works because that is the only thing maybe he can do to be able to put maybe food on the table. And so he's suggesting that a man or other staff members are naturally lazy. They can't be relied upon. That is why we need to set standards. We need to set rules and regulations. We need to supervise them so strongly, because they don't have that inner motivation to work. And so you need to supervise them. You need to sometimes once in a while to pose threats and punishments, especially if they don't meet organizational goals or when they don't respect you. So that is theory X according to McGregor theory. Then the theory Y, according to him, says it presents somebody or a worker who really loves what they do, and that people naturally love to work. They don't need to be supervised because it is something that comes from them. It is an intrinsic motivation that people are willing to achieve goals of the organizations. They don't necessarily need to be supervised so closely that they have the ability to work. And whether introduce punishments or threats or whatever, they will still work. So at the beginning of the lesson, I said, that is why you realize that certain manager will manage in a particular way. It's because maybe they believe that people hate work. They cannot work unless they are supervised. They cannot work unless there are rules and regulations. They cannot work unless somebody threatens them with a punishment. Another person is free. They are feeling that these people have come to this organization. In the morning, they have reported so early because they feel they need to work. They feel they need to use their physical energy. They feel this is where they get their daily bread, and so they need to work. So if you see somebody adopting theory X, then perhaps that is where they are borrowing it from. If you find somebody adopting theory Y as a way of management, then just know that that is where it is coming from. Then Another theory X was presented by somebody that we call William Uchi. He looked at the two theories that had been introduced there before, and he said, wait a minute, I think I have a revision. I think there is a better way of looking at man or at work. It suggests that a flexible managerial approach with elements of both structured and relaxed organization. And he said that this leads to success. And it was studies with the Japanese and American companies. And so it is like an integration of both the Japanese and American companies. That is where it was practiced, and that is where it was proposed. And the reason as to why he was studying is to try and find out, how did the American companies succeed? Why did the Japanese companies succeed? He found out that most American companies followed a set of business practices, which he referred to as Type A for America, Type A for America, and Type J for Japan. So we are saying that Theory X is based on certain factors: the ability to guarantee workers longer employment period, such as employee participation in decision making, and then policy implementation criteria. And then he was also saying that individual responsibility should also be spelled out. So he brought out something that was a bit different from Theory X and Theory Y. And he talks about something like involvement of employees in business, in decision making, assuring them of their job by longer employment periods, and also spelling out what they're supposed to do. Introduction of job descriptions, introductions of allocation of tasks, and they must be done in a very fair and in a very good way. So that is all for management theories that I needed us to look at today. And we have said that there is no, we can't have one theory that is the best to use. You've said that it will depend with the kind of people that you are supervising. It will depend with the kind of workers that you have. It will depend with the kind of an organization that you are working for. So you need to know which one to, which method of management is best to apply where. So thank you so much for listening to me. And like I said last time, please adhere to the deadlines or to the dates that have been posted on the portal for you to be able to know when we are doing the first cut, when you're doing the second cut, if it's group work, what needs to be done. So thank you so much, and I hope that you will continue enjoying the course. Asante.